Welcome back to Scratching the Surface. My name is Justin, aka Money, and I am joined alongside by with my fiance Cynthia, and obviously the GOAT, my co-host Junes. Good to have you on.
Cynthia, I'm very excited to have you here. It's always nice to have some different opinions on horror movies. So I'm really curious to see where you stand within the genre. I really want to hear where you started watching it, how old, were you in high school? What's your preference in terms of subgenres? I want to hear all of that. I'm excited.
Well, I think I watched one on a basketball team when I was younger, and it was one of those like sleepovers, and I can't fall asleep if there's a movie playing, so I watched the whole thing and just was terrified the whole time. It was just not really my thing. But then I didn't watch any again until I think our second date. We watched The Conjuring. I have learned that my trigger or my coping mechanism for seeing scary things or stuff like that is to laugh. And so instead of like jumping or like yelling, screaming, I laugh. But I've learned that's my coping mechanism, and not always a good thing when you're with a horror fanatic. But I don't enjoy them, but I like to pick them apart.
I do want to say this is the perfect film also because it's directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and he is well known for infusing a little bit of comedic elements into his horror films. So Cynthia, this is right where you want it. You can laugh a little bit at times because he, as a director, is making sure he's putting some of those pieces throughout the film to kind of give you that comedic relief. So I love hearing about it. I'm really excited to see your thoughts on the film. And I hope maybe your horror love grows over the years, especially with us doing this podcast.
And also, before we keep diving into this, make sure to check us out on Spotify. You can see our faces, our reactions, and the full-length episodes on YouTube, as well as on Apple Podcasts and TikTok as well. Again, for our audience listeners, to put an image in your head of what this movie is really about. So I'll read it quick, and then we'll go from there. So through Kevin, who's played by James McAvoy, has evidenced 23 personalities to his trusted psychiatrist, Dr. Fletcher, who's played by Betty Buckley. There remains one still submerged who is set to materialize and dominate all of the others. Compelled to abduct 3 teenage girls led by the willful, observant Casey, Kevin reaches a war for survival among all of those contained within him, as well as everyone around him, as the walls between his compartments shatter.
Yeah, to start off, I think the opening was freaking exceptional. I thought that was an awesome opening. We're immediately displayed to the antagonist in the film, and this man looks like a somewhat normal guy. We have some girls that are having a little party together at a restaurant, and they need to go home. Their dad's going to take them home. And our main protagonist that we have, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, her character's name is Casey Cook. She is, I would say, the outsider within this friend group. She's a little antisocial. Her friends, I would say, are a little bit gossipy with her and not exactly fair. We have this group of friends getting a ride from one of the dads. And when they're packing the vehicle, the dad turns around and sees somebody approaching him. We don't see who it is, but we know that someone approaches the dad. We then have Casey Cook, who's in the passenger seat. She looks in the side mirror. She notices the groceries or whatever they had, maybe the leftovers from the restaurant probably, were dropped onto the ground. So she knows there's potentially something off here. And I love the look that Anya Taylor-Joy has as she's slowly turning her head to the left in the passenger seat. And she sees this absolute stranger in the driver's seat. That is really intense. Those are great opening scenes. We have the 2 friends in the back of the car the whole time on their phone, laughing, giggling. They have zero clue that there is a stranger in the driver's seat. And he basically sprays them with some kind of gas, knocks them out. Really good way to set the tone for the film. The intro credits are really good too. And then we end up basically in a shacked up place. We don't know where we're at. We have zero idea. We're right there with the main characters, the 3 girls. They're basically just sitting in this locked up room on a couple mattresses. And we have the main antagonist come in. And I believe he comes in right away as, I can't remember which alter state he comes into personality wise.
I think it's Mr. Dennis
Yep.
because it's especially the clothing they wear. I think with Dennis, he basically and the glasses, he stuck with like a tight buttoned up shirt, belt, pants, like looked very sophisticated.
Mhm.
Yeah. And he pulls up that chair and just stares at him and like just ever like I'll keep saying it again and again, but like the intensity with these characters portrayed amongst these girls, like you just feel it as an audience member. So um but yeah, speaking with that scene, obviously we don't know where we are. We find out like at the way end of the movie, and these girls are just trying to compromise and talk amongst themselves, and they kind of have like a disagreement with uh Casey because she just doesn't talk. She just like almost doesn't want to be involved. And but in reality, she's like trying to figure out a map or a plan in her head, I think, of like what do we know? What can we do that we know with the information we have? And just kind of playing the waiting game. And it kind of leads into this next thing I'll talk about too, is like we get a quick flashback of her hunting with her dad and her uncle. And we learn that, you know, they talk about how to like hunt a buck, how to be patient, how to like mentally beat this creature, you know, in a battle, how you can outsmart this animal. And there's many flashbacks in this movie, but like quick, like 1 minute ones or something like that. And I think the longest one was like 2 minutes at the end or middle of the end. But yeah, it was cool because you could see her using that as, you know, a segue from her childhood to now. Obviously not the situation she'd want to be in, but like she's using those like abilities and skills to, again, trying to like map together how to get out. And we see that throughout the whole movie, basically, I would say, with Casey. So her friends really don't agree with her. Like, what did you think of that too? Because I mean, obviously, if you were trapped in a room with two other girls, you probably all just want to fight this dude any chance you could. Because what hope do you really have?
Yeah, and it was I probably would have done the fighting. Like, let's try to fight him. But she has the perspective of, hey, I saw him drag you in here. He threw you around like a sack of
Mhm.
potatoes. Like,
Yep.
you weighed nothing to him. And so if she already knew he has strength to him, there's just no way three girls are going to take this dude down. So she has that knowledge they didn't have, but it's also why can't you try? Why can't you try to fight? But I think she's trying to observe before taking action, just to see what's going on. You don't know if he's trying to hurt you because he could have hurt you already, but he hasn't. So there's something else going on, and she's trying to figure that out.
I love that you mentioned that because it's very well displayed. She's clearly more aware when it comes to these types of dangers. And it really is due to her upbringing and some of the things that have happened in her past, which we just spoke about it, those flashbacks we see when they're hunting. Very, very significant. And I think we had like 5 of those flashbacks, and they were all equally good because I was wondering the whole time, where are these flashbacks going? What is the significance? I kept thinking maybe there was some kind of hunting accident or something like that. I didn't know what was going to happen. So all of those were really well placed by the director. And I believe we get some shots coming up here too of our main antagonist, Kevin, his actual person, going to psychiatry with his psychiatrist, Dr. Fletcher.
Kevin is one of her patients, essentially. This isn't like her first rodeo, I think, with dealing with these identity or personality disorders, is kind of how they describe it. And all she's really trying to do throughout this movie is try to meet these identities. But I think the one she meets the most consistently is Barry. Barry is, with Kevin, so we've mentioned Dennis. Now we've met Barry. Barry is the one we see a lot actually throughout this, in these therapy sessions with the psychiatrist. So, and he's like a artist or like a fashion, like, how do you want to put it?
Fashionista.
Yeah. And Dr. Fletcher as well, every time we see her, she's a lot. She appears a lot in this movie. She, again, like you kind of said, tries to decipher who she's talking to, what she can do to help as she's taking notes and things like that. Kind of like just trying to listen to what is happening with him so she can help. And then I think now we meet our fourth character personality with Kevin, and that is Hedwig. And I think the first time, I know we kind of did it with Patricia, but also Hedwig, like you chuckled and it kind of made me chuckle just because of like the way, like Hedwig is a 9-year-old boy played, in this adult version body. So like the way he talks, kind of slurs words, can't pronounce things right. The way he walks like a 9-year-old, dresses, the room Casey gets introduced to, like drawings and paintings and things like that. Everything a 9-year-old would do. And we see some dialogue between them two, and he's basically telling Casey like something's coming for them, like you're all doomed, and kind of just like these conversations back and forth with like it's almost like a third person like way of talking about like this person said this, then this person said that. And I think it's at this point with Hedwig, I personally feel like she's kind of catching on now, like something's seriously wrong with this guy. And when she notices like his slur a little bit with words, speech, the way he walks, like the dialogue between them, she actually, I think in this first scene, she meets him, tries to take advantage of him a little bit. Um, and persuading him to like help get the girls out or something. And he's like, no, I don't think Dennis or Patricia or someone would like that. So it's very interesting to see how she can try to just basically pull the strings with these personalities and get a little bit of leverage.
And Hedwig definitely considers it. So she damn near succeeds because he really wanted to, but like you said, he's like, I don't know if I should. Patricia will be mad at me. Yeah. But that first shot, because we have Casey waking up in the mattress and she's looking at the door to the room they're in. I love this shot because it's not just a straight normal shot, it's upside down, and we just see Hedwig sitting there squatting by the front door, or by that door, just sitting there kind of bouncing around. The way he walks towards her too, like a freaking duck, is just so well acted that McAvoy killed it.
So following kind of up after that, meeting some of these identities and figuring out the girl's situation a little bit, they actually come to a conclusion that I think, based off the dialogue Casey had with Hedwig, I think we talked about it too, like live during the movie, because I mean we're both watching it, so we could talk to each other a little bit. The girls overall kind of find a vent in the drywall in the ceiling, because they realize it's like new drywall.
Yeah, because Hedwig had said, he's like, it took Mr. Dennis a while to make this room safe. And so Casey was like, this is new drywall. They just made this room. Mm-hmm. So there's a reason why they had to make it safe. And so that's when they start realizing there's a way out of here.
Yeah. So I think it was Marcia, like starts ripping the ceiling out, and they find a vent, or they start knocking, trying to find a hollow point, first of all. And they do. So they're like, okay, there must be a hole here or a vent. So they go and go and go. Casey's on the lookout, and one of the identities is coming back, and she gets on the loose. Like this is like the first like really, really intense scene I think we have it up until this point, because we just don't know what's going to happen here, or who we're going to see from Kevin played as trying to chase her down or what. And she's basically crawling through the vent, I think escapes, and then eventually just ends up in a locker at the end of like this long corridor with pipes, and which again makes us wonder where are they? Like we don't know still where they are. Because I thought like an apartment complex or something at first, something with multiple rooms
or something.
Yeah. So,
but this is Claire. This is Claire that got out.
Oh, it's Claire. Okay.
Claire got out.
So, he like in the way he like approaches her too, she's trying to like hold her breath, keep quiet, and he like flashes right in front of the locker and says something like, oh, I don't think you could escape that easily or something, and basically locks her in a separate room and is like drilling locks on the door or something. And slowly, one by one, we're going to learn that they all basically get separated by the end of this movie.
Yeah, one thing I'd also like to note is when the personalities came back when Claire was trying to escape, it was Hedwig. And he was like, guys, like, what do you like? Stop playing around. Like, let me in. But you can see when he starts realizing something's wrong, how quickly these personalities can change, because then Mr. Dennis immediately barges through the door to see what happens. So like these personalities can switch pretty quickly.
That's a good point, because she had a quote in there too, like every identity has a different body, essentially. So
Yeah, I think we've pretty much, in the first half, we've obviously had the attempted escapes with, well, one of them so far with the vent.
Yeah.
And I think in the second half, we get a walkie-talkie at some point, but a lot of these attempts end in failure for the most part, but they are worth talking about. But I am good ending the first half there, Money, and I'm very excited for Table Talk. What do you have in store for us?
Again, friendly reminder, we are basically picking a horror movie character or villain that we would swap lives with. So I was explaining this to her, like, not being the biggest horror fan, obviously, just who is someone that you'd want to flip lives with, like, and live out as them in their
Kills and all.
yeah, kills and all, and
Yep.
like be that person in that world or like franchise that they're in or independent film, with their traits, their childhood, how they're raised, everything, positive, negative, strengths, weaknesses, all of it. So I would have to swap lives with the Predator. Some of the stats and things I found out, like these guys are 7 foot plus, like over 500 pounds, just super agile. And some of the equipment that I found out too, that I really had to dig up and just like get a whole list. So they have like a biomask, obviously the plate armor, which I think we all know, but like, and the wrist gauntlet, which we see a lot. And then the other one I'd say too, the cloaking device, which is so badass. And then wrist blades. They have like a power punch glove, self-destruct device. And then like they have like spear like weapons, net launcher, the plasma gun too, which is really cool. And being like raised in an environment like that of just a fight for survival, essentially.
I think that's perfect for you, Money, because look, for anybody listening, Money is a good fisherman. He loves to fish. I imagine he would love to hunt as well if he got into that. And what the Predator does, literally for their entire life, is hunting for sport. They collect all sorts of trophy kills in terms of the skulls. And one of those trophy kills is the xenomorph, which we see in the AVP movies.
Yeah. The way these things operate, like I know yours already, so I'm curious to see, because that was good. I like how you picked up on like how small traits can translate to what we do like in our own lives, like how these guys kind of like operate and things like that. So we'll see here. So I don't know.
All right, Cynthia, I'm excited to hear it. I'm stoked.
Okay. Obviously, I have not seen a whole lot of horror movies, but I only know this one because I think when you did one of your movies, I heard it or saw it, or when you were researching your video, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But mine is Jigsaw. I'm not going for like the super strength or like I would still like to be human. Don't need to transform into an alien or anything. But he just has this he had like a normal life. Like he just normal upbringing, had a wife, and then divorced, and he has terminal cancer.
Mhm.
And that is why he starts doing what he's doing. But he has like he's an expert in hand-to-hand combat. He's an expert in all sorts of like tools and weapons and bombs. And he is just like a puzzle making genius.
Literally.
And I love puzzles and I love figuring things out and tinkering with things. And the way or the reason he does what he does is because he thinks the other people are doing wrong. And he owns up to his own mistakes as well. Like he's been in his own traps. Yeah, it's wrong overall, but to him, it's like everybody is wrong. And so everybody has the opportunity to free themselves by making a sacrifice. And so I like that part of it instead of just the kill for blood, just because, yeah, he is the one setting everything up. And like that is wrong, obviously, but these other people are also doing wrong and nobody's holding them accountable. So he's like, if someone's going to do it, I'm going to do it, but they're going to have a chance to be free.
It's a goddamn good way to learn from your mistakes if you go through those games. So I love both of your choices. I think they're really good. The explanation between each of them is so well thought out, and it applies to us in some manner in terms of our everyday normal lives. For me, for my character that I'm choosing for a horror villain, Money,
Yep.
it's going to be right in line with what you just said. I would want to be the xenomorph from Alien.
Yep.
Because I'd finally know what it's like to be 7'5", and this is coming from a 5'8.5" white guy. So, so
Hey.
anyways, short kings represent. The xenomorph is the perfect organism, unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality. I would finally be able to get out of my own head for once, as I'd be doing exactly what I was made to do, and that's to be a killing machine.
Okay.
I'd be akin to the tiger in the wild.
Yeah.
They got spikes for tails. They've got an inner jaw that shoots out. These things are badass. They're super quiet and stealthy. They have a very, very intricate, I would say, evolution process. They have the eggs, which hatch the face huggers. The face huggers plant the egg. The xenomorph is born. Fucking awesome. And I think that
insane how that is.
It's insane. It's so well thought out. And I do think the xenomorph is the best monster by far in a horror film, easily. It's so well thought out and constructed. Yeah. But yes, I would want to be a xenomorph, and for the reasons of being the perfect organism. I love them. They're freaking awesome.
Yeah, like it's, again, not to like use my own character, but it is, like another predator. Like this is like you said, organism that is just a killing machine. Like it competes. It's like almost at the top of the food chain, if you will. I think like Predator 2, like just to how, if you had to make a tier list, like these guys are at the top. So coming from you though, with Aliens, Xenomorphs, it does not surprise me. The cinematography in these films, the way, you learn the origin of them, the birth, how, like the movies, like, when these humans are trying to investigate things and you have kill scenes and you just see these things in action. It does not surprise me at all that you picked it. Anyway, that has been our table talk. That was fun. I love that. Picking back up with Split. Now, we kind of reached the first couple of acts. The next big scene that happens is actually Marsha's chase scene. So we already have Claire locked up, and I believe Patricia basically takes them out in the kitchen. She's making them sandwiches with a, might I add, giant ass, almost not Michael Myers-esque knife, but like pretty damn big knife. And they kind of give this look like, okay, are we about to do something? And Casey's with her too. And Marsha, being her rogue self, picks up a chair and just smacks Patricia in the back. And she runs like hell. And I think, where does she escape to? I think she just ends up getting locked in another room, I think. Yeah. Just hides in I think, she's like trying to figure some stuff out. And then we see Dennis's character still dressed as Patricia, because obviously, you can't probably change that fast, but like clothes wise, but like change personalities and identities that quick. Just he pans through the doorway and is standing right behind her. And it's like, oh shit, like you're screwed. So now we have a second character locked up. And also with this, after this scene too, we learn a little bit more about Casey's background and why she likes to be alone. So after this, I think we see a kind of a significant scene with Dr. Fletcher now. Again, surprise, surprise, but she actually gets Dennis to come out to her, which is freaking insane, because like we almost got it before and now it actually happened. And she kind of like is saying how this beast, like she's trying to like tell him and prove to him, like, have you seen the beast? Has he come out? And he's like, no. I think it's Barry at this point, but he flips to Dennis and she's just trying to figure out who's in charge. And like, this is kind of a long scene too, like almost a 5 to 10 minute scene of this just one-on-one dialogue of her like explaining the beast cannot be real.
I think this was Dennis the whole time. This wasn't Barry. Barry didn't show
Oh,
up.
I think that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was putting on a show.
Yeah.
I think.
Because the only way we knew what day it was because there was another emergency meeting. There was another emergency meeting. And we're like, obviously Dennis isn't the one wanting the meeting because he's very upset to be there. But you can see that it's Dennis from the start if we paid attention to the details, because Barry's not OCD, but when Dennis first walks into the room of Dr. Fletcher's office, he starts putting the books back. He evens out the candy dish. And so those first little bits, we don't know Dennis that well yet, but he has OCD. And so we know it's Dennis the whole time based on that. So when she finally gets him to admit it, then he's like, I think she mentioned something about how they're all sitting in a chair. Like in his mind, they're all sitting in a chair. And when they have the light, their identity is brought forth. And so Dennis, Patricia, and I don't know if it was Hedwig. Hedwig is like getting bullied by the other ones somehow. And Dennis and Patricia don't do good. They're evil. But and they want to do bad things. And at one point, she says, Dennis likes to see naked girls dance. And so because we know that, it makes sense that Marsha was brought out. And when she said, hey, he made me try to dance. So he was trying to come to what he likes and see the naked girls dance. So we see there that he's not good and that's what he wants. And so Hedwig also said that he's the only one that can bring the light if he wants it. So he can take over the light from somebody else. And so he is working with Patricia and Dennis, and he keeps giving them the light. So the other ones are suppressed and they can't get the light because Hedwig keeps taking it. But some of them have to be coming out a little bit for them to send the email but we don't know who it is. We don't know what's going on there.
Oh, that's so good, because my question is, who has been scheduling the meetings? We have Jade and Orwell, which we don't see a whole lot of, but that's my question. Are they the ones scheduling the meetings? Clearly somebody in this personality, in this horde of personalities, is trying to get help. So I love that you say that. That was so well said. That was perfect.
So I mean, it helps me understand, and obviously everybody listening, again, well said. So they keep hyping up the beast like that something's coming. And we have a part in the movie that, we probably need to address. We have the most intense flashback, and that's with Casey's uncle, like, playing animals. So, like, so weird. Like, you see this adult dude wanting to make her undress, play animals, and he's like on all fours, but like kind of
underwear.
In his underwear, yes, kind of hiding behind a rock and a tree or something, and howling and saying, "Come on, like, get into act, like, play, start undressing." And like, he's like, "You don't want to make me mad, do you?" And all this, and like just being like a demanding character over her, forcing her to do things. And she actually gets the shotgun and holds him at gunpoint too. And I think it was loaded, and she just never pulled the trigger. He ends up just like slow approach, grabs it, cocks it, and you can just like the camera pans back to little Casey, and you can just like she's breathing heavy, and you can just feel that intensity in that scene with her. So weird ass scene, but like so well acted and played out from this character. So that happened, and again, and then it pans back to her current situation. So that again happens a lot throughout this movie. Things kind of going back and forth, and I think
those flashbacks are great. I think it really adds so much layer to Casey as a character. You start to understand why she acts the way she does and why she's so skeptical of every situation she's in with strangers. Very uncomfortable scenes, but it was so important to her character.
Yeah. So I'd say at this point too, we are probably almost are entering in the final scene or the final act now. Because Dr. Fletcher, she shows up at this address, at this place, yet we still don't know where it's at technically. And we see a scene too where she literally received like, I don't know, 50 emails all within like like literally emails from the same minute and then the next minute and then probably 50 of them, and she's just like, holy shit. So she shows up to this place because she's like, I'm like seriously worried.
When she first gets to this place, Dennis is outside about to leave.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, like, can I come in? Like, can we talk? Because in this session you were about to open up to me. Like, can we continue that conversation further? And so he brings her in, and then he sits her down, and he's almost trying to like hurry her along. Like, he keeps looking at his watch. He's got places to be. Like, he needs to be somewhere. And she's like trying to stall, trying to figure out what's going on. And so eventually, Dr. Fletcher realizes she's starting to upset him. He's starting to get upset. So she tries to calm the situation. She's like, okay, like I need to go. Like, can I go to the bathroom? And so she leaves, and she ends up discovering what is it? She opens the door. Yeah. She realizes something's wrong, sees there's light under some of the doors, opens the door and sees Claire basically passed out on the floor in her bra and skirt. But then Dennis catches her and sprays her in the face with the drug and drags her back into the other room. And that's when he takes off. Yeah. To go to his meeting.
The scene I loved, probably one of my favorites. He like takes his shirt off in that subway bus or the train, and then you could start seeing him breathing heavy, and he's like literally changing before your eyes.
But while he's out,
go ahead. Yeah.
While he's out in his beast transformation, we see that Casey has escaped the first room because she had a nail and like was able to get out, and she finds a computer in the second locked room where it has files of every single all 23 personalities, and she clicks on them and she hears them talking in their personality, just like a daily vlog. She hears of Jade, she hears Barry, there was Orwell, I think, and she's trying to escape the second room as those are playing, and she ends up finding keys based on the video showing that Barry grabbed the keys off a hook, and she looked behind her and the keys were there, so she's able to escape.
And we see a very good shot of the beast. The favorite part about him, obviously about the looks, is I kind of hinted at you, but like the dude's lungs when he breathes, just the way they expand, it looks like a lion's lungs. Very just totally non-human.
He just looks bigger.
Yeah, like Casey escapes and she finds
Marsha.
Was it Marsha first? I think.
Yeah, Marsha's first.
The room first she discovered her dead body. Just like a glimpse, like a quick shot of it.
Yeah, she opens it to find her, and she finds her on the floor, like her innards out, like eaten from the stomach, like something ate her. And then,
which is insane.
And then she goes over to the next door, opens it, and she sees Claire on the floor, and she's like, Claire, like, come on, let's go. She can't see the bottom part of her body. She just sees like shoulders and up. And then she's like, Claire, come on. She takes a step in, sees the figure of the beast over this body, and he just drags her back.
That was scary,
just
dude.
Drags her, and she freaks out. And so she slams the door shut, locks it, and takes off running.
Casey is now the only one alive at this point, and she's in the presence of the beast. And we find out that Dr. Fletcher actually wrote down on that piece of paper or tissue, whatever it was, Kevin's full name, which is Kevin Wendell Crumb. So she doesn't really know what to do, but like, I think anybody in that scenario would probably just like read it and be like, and just say it. I think that'd be the only logical thing to do.
The note said, say its name.
Say its name.
Kendall Wendell.
Yeah. So she ends up saying it, and it like redacts the beast.
Dr. Fletcher said in one of the sessions, she's like, I could say your name and like make you go back to Kevin, but she's like, but I don't want to do that to you, because when that happens, all of your personalities come into the light at the same time. So we do see this as Jade comes to light, Barry's there, they all switch within seconds of each other, trying to become this main persona. And we see Jade comes out and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, dear. Like, we've been sending emails for help. Like, so we figure out Jade's the one that's been sending these emails trying to get help but then Hedwig keeps pushing him back, and Hedwig comes out again being like, they're not going to bully me anymore. Like, and he brings out Dennis and the Beast and Patricia, And so they all come to light in saying his name, and then it eventually, I think, transforms back into the beast right there.
Yeah. And we don't see him again then, I think, right? Like we don't see Kevin again at all. And then we find out there's a maintenance dude. What?
Yeah, where's
We're
he
like,
been?
what? And they're in a zoo. And he gets her out and she's freed. She lived. She kept herself alive up until the point, I feel like she just got kind of lucky just from like, she only had like a crop top on or something
Like
exposing.
he ripped her shirt off as
Yeah.
the beast.
Like, so I feel like she kind of like got a free pass in that because like she would have been screwed. The dude just, she missed 2 shots, but like he just ate 2 shotgun shells like it was nothing. So
Like
I
I don't
think
know. That's just
I kind of agree with Cynthia. I love the idea of Kevin or the beast seeing that she is pure because of the past abuse she's been through, the struggles that she's had to endure. I kind of like that. He spares her life because of it. I think that's really cool. I liked the character of Casey. She was the one that I think should have survived, and I'm glad that she did. And when she's taken by the police, I think she also reports to them the instance that she had with her Uncle John. And I believe they throw him in prison for it, which is awesome. You get to see Casey finally have that win at the end, that she finally is able to put these things behind her and be true to people and just express that I have been through shit. There's bad people in this world. They should not be able to still be out in society and be a danger to other people. So I think the ending's actually pretty darn good. We get an awesome cameo at the end too, a little cut scene with David Dunn, who was in the film Unbreakable, at I would say, just a diner watching the news. And all of this is on the news about what happened, what transpired, that lives were taken. And David Dunn is sitting there by somebody in the diner, and they're like, wow, this is crazy. And David Dunn sits there and he thinks to himself, I knew somebody kind of like that once upon a time. And it's Elijah from Unbreakable, which ties into the next movie, Glass, which if you haven't seen it, it's decent. I didn't love it. I personally preferred Unbreakable and Split more, but that cutscene was so perfect for people that have seen Unbreakable. It definitely got me excited for the next film that they released.
Yeah. And that's really how the movie ends. Like, and already as an audience member, even probably back in 17 when it came out, like there's going to be another movie coming out based on that easily. So, they couldn't have hinted at it any better, but I think it's time now finally for the ratings. So, first time rating for Cynthia. So
Let's go.
I'm excited, and I'm going to read Rotten Tomatoes and we'll just kind of hop right into it. So, okay, so we have an audience score 79% for Split and a critic score of 78. So this is probably one of the closest films for sure that I've seen where it's kind of in the name, but a split tie almost with critic and audience score ratings. So for me, I mean, I can go first. I kind of had my score right probably a minute or two right after the movie, after just thinking about it for a couple minutes. This film really, I think I wouldn't say like masterpiece, but this film was pretty damn good. Like I enjoyed it. I love seeing such a simple cast, yet so much action going on. It feels, all the identities and personalities, figuring things out. And I mentioned this either to Tyler or Cynthia or both. I don't remember. But, to me, this kind of felt like a psychological movie similar to The Lodge, which I wasn't as a fan of as technically you and better because you guys rated it higher than me. I was the lowest on the totem pole. But this is just like a different kind of psychological film. This to me had like way more action compared to The Lodge and such like a good, I wouldn't say maybe better. They're both good plots, but like this plot was really, really good. With you trying to figure out things and like it's just Anna's character too was so well played, and James McAvoy too, so freaking good. One of the best actors I've seen act in a movie like this. I'm sure it was strenuous to get all this down, and I could imagine what he kind of had to go through. But um, and really good cinematography too, with what all the room, like the. I know we're kind of confined in a space, but like I think they're in Philadelphia at the end. They say so. We see like shots of the city and stuff, but the way you have to piece together things in this film is so good. I loved it. I loved the characters. I didn't have very many flaws with it, only aside from like kind of getting confused in the middle. Um, and I'm not just like going over the top with this movie, but like this was to me a better film than a lot of the ones I've seen in the past that we've rated. But because it's up there for me. But with all that being said, I'm gonna go right at an 8.4.
Damn. Damn.
Yeah.
Woo.
So I'm putting it up there. This was really, really good to me.
So for me, Money, I love your score. I respect it. I have always been a fan of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. Of course, he has some misses here and there. He's definitely had ups and downs. But when he does it well, you end up with a pretty damn good movie.
Mhm.
And Split was one of them. I think it's a good movie. I think that when it came out, there was a lot of buzz going around. The marketing, from what I remember, was really good. We had this
Yeah.
multiple personality character that was extremely entertaining to watch. You were constantly on edge trying to figure out what his true personality was, why this horde of personalities was there, what each one acted like, and when they were going to be a major danger to the cast that we had. And the cast was pretty darn good. Anya Taylor-Joy is always very solid in her movies. She was in The Witch that we talked about.
Yep.
She's just a damn good actress. And whenever she's in a film, I usually know it's going to be pretty decent. The opening shots were so good because there's something so scary about getting snatched like that by some stranger, because that is in real life and that is always a danger to real people. So it is scary to think about. And we're in one setting, but that one single setting was so well utilized. They did it perfectly. And the scares were minimal in the first half, but once the beast really is revealed at the end, we are pretty well shocked. We are so scared of what's going to happen, and we are fearing for the characters in the film. The ending, I love the tie-in to Unbreakable. It sets us up perfectly for Glass. And like I said, while Glass wasn't quite as good, I still thought it really got me intrigued because I had never seen Unbreakable before I watched Split. So Split was definitely a motivator for me to go watch those films. It clearly did something right, clearly. And M. Night really, I think, infuses all of the characters between the three films so perfectly. And it's I would say, an understated, almost superhero / villain movie. And all in all, for me, I'm going to have to go a 7.5. I would think that after a while, the personalities got a little bit repetitive. But again, they were entertaining. I can't hate on it for that. But I'm going to go a 7.5. Cynthia, I cannot wait to hear yours.
Okay, so I really enjoyed this, especially the psychological part. I usually end up picking movies apart, and like even hour or two after the movie, I'll be like, well, why did they do that? Or why was this happening? And you hear it all the time, or like something dumb happens, and I'm like, well, they missed that, or why isn't there blood on the knife? That's the kind of reactions I give.
Yeah.
You hate it, but there was not a single question that I ended up having because they answered everything that I needed. I think we might have missed this point, but one of the reasons I think Dennis, Patricia, and Hedwig did come to the light was because there was an incident where in his scene with Dr. Fletcher, she's like, well, do we want to talk about the incident when there was a high school group came to the zoo and two girls came up to him and they said that they made him put his hand on their breast.
Oh, I do remember that.
And that could have been the incident she was talking about. That could have been the thing that brought forth these bad personalities to try to protect Kevin. And so my question of why did they, like, what brought them to come forward? Why are they evil right now? Like, what happened? and they answered every single question that I had. It was just an all-around good movie. Everything tied together. Those little details were brought forth in the end. We knew exactly what was happening, which was awesome. We knew what was happening while still being left in the dark for the points that, like, where the beast is coming from. Is that a separate entity? Is it part of him? Different things like that. So I really loved this movie and the deep thinking that it brought forth from me. So overall, I love this movie, and I would love to continue with the trilogy and see the other ones as well. But I give this an 8.6.
Woo!
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. This is a surprise. This
I
Fuck
love
yeah.
these are the kind of movies that I could continue watching over and over.
Very
That's
well
pretty good.
said. Very
Pretty
good reviews. And I'm curious. I don't even know if Unbreakable is considered a horror film. I think the other two really didn't have as many horror elements, which is why I think splitting this trilogy stands out for me. I do think I liked it more than Unbreakable. It's a solid freaking film. I think a lot of people would enjoy watching it. And Cynthia, this is the perfect one to have you on Scratching the Surface for. I really enjoyed talking about it. Money, per usual. Thank you for guiding the episode. Thank you for being the man, for being the money man. This was a great episode to talk about.
Yeah, I freaking had a blast. It's always fun, obviously, when you have a little bit of a better movie to review. But it's up and down. That's just how it's going to be. And yeah, thank you for coming on. 20th episode. It's been a fun ride. So what better way to spend it on a weekend than doing this? So I'm glad we all could get here. It's always been a pleasure, Junes. And again, show some love, you audience members on some of our platforms. We hope this was entertaining as it was for me, and I know you other guys. So yeah, and with that, we've been scratching the surface.